Hello and welcome to Epic Loot Radio, episode 13, lucky 13 in this case. And today we're joined by a host of incredible content creators to discuss all things in the epic looter shooter and looter worlds for video games. And so we've got a couple awesome topics for you guys today. As a overview of the show, we're going to be talking about what we're playing. We're going to cover any kind of Outriders, Minecraft, PSO2, Godfall news. If you guys haven't been paying attention to Godfall, there are updates still rolling out to that game. And so we've invited Johnny here, and I'm going to let him introduce himself in just a second. Otherwise, for our topics, we're going to be talking about what we're doing as our countdown to Outriders, which is, again, the demo is on the 25th, and hopefully we'll be able to get some good game time in on that day for you guys, as well as we're going to be talking about, will Anthem live or die? It's been a very contentious week. Believe in Anthem hashtag's been going around, so we'll be sure to be talking about that. From there, we're also going to be talking about the CDPR hack. Destiny 2 Season of the Chosen might come in a little bit because I think apparently I'm the only one who's playing it. And Diablo 2 Resurrection rumors are coming up as well. So we've got quite the show. Let's go ahead and do our intro and podcast updates for this. I'm going to start with Johnny. Johnny, you are the freshman face here. Guys, if you do not follow Johnny Mac Games, he is not even at 1,000 subscribers yet, but his content is totally worth 1,000 subscribers at least. It's up to him to take it from 1K and beyond. But if you guys check the link in the description, go follow his content, see if it's something up your alley. Johnny, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, and then I'm going to go to Rory.
Thanks, Brian. I appreciate your kind words, and I just want to thank you and the other guys for this opportunity. So I started my channel not really that long ago. A couple months ago, I originally got into YouTube with the idea of covering a game by Amazon Studios, Crucible. Unfortunately for me, shortly. Yeah.
That's why you have never seen Johnny before.
It was a game that I really enjoyed a lot. They had some good promise. But unfortunately they gave it the hatchet for all the right reasons, so kind of went in stealth mode there. My original content wasn't very good, and I was like, okay, got to continue to improve. Watched all the greats, all three of you actually included, and I've been spending countless hours creating my own brand and creating all my assets. Every single asset that you see, all the graphics, I've actually done with my own hands, including my logo, everything. And, just countless hours of research, just figuring out how to do stuff, learning the YouTube algorithm, which, is quite daunting, especially for newcomers such as myself. But, my claim to fame so far has actually been in the game Godfall. I strive to produce content that isn't just for the uber elite, the people that have tons and tons of time to soak into a game. I try to cater to the average gamer and the less hardcore fans and provide them builds that will actually carry them to their goals. In particular, prior to this update, which we're going to talk about later, was a level 50. Now the new 50 is actually level 20, and we'll talk about that later.
All right. I'm looking forward to hearing more about Godfall. I enjoyed my experience, and I know Rory is. So Rory, why don't you take it over? Yeah. What are you playing? How is life going and treating you right now?
Life has actually been pretty harsh because having to deal with your children being online schooled when they're at a very young age is extremely hard, trying to provide them with a good environment. So that's mostly what I've been spending my time with. The little time that I haven't spent doing that, I've been playing Final Fantasy 14 because I made a mistake. Like, I thought that I needed a melee DPS to do all of the 4 role quests for Shadowbringers, but no, you just need a physical DPS, and I already had a machinist. So I've been leveling a samurai for nothing.
Nothing.
Samurai's good.
That's right. We got
the class, man. Come on.
Samurai has outstanding animations, and I'm very much someone that's all about animation. So I do love the whole, you do your 3 Genki whatever charge things, and then like sheep and like do a yai, and it's very, very good. So yeah, I've been having a blast with that. But other than that, just a little bit of Monster Hunter here and there where I can squeeze it, and that's pretty much it.
All right. How about you, Chaos?
I'm not like Rory. I've got 4 kids, 5 ones abroad. So I've got 4 at home at the moment, and homeschooling is a real challenge.
How many kids do we all have here? Because you got 5. Johnny, you've got 4. You've got 2. I've got 5. Rory, you need to get to breeding.
Yeah.
No, I'm good.
Yeah, you're like, we're good.
Next generation of gamers,
Exactly. Fantastic.
So I've been doing a bit of 14, quite a bit actually recently. I'm trying to get my Black Mage level 71 at the moment, trying to get all classes to 80. I did start playing Little Nightmares last night at
good
8
game.
p.m. on Stadia.
Yeah, it came out free on Stadia. I was like,
Yep.
all right.
And I ended up finishing at 3 a.m. in the morning.
Oh, it's that good?
I saw your tweet. I was like, holy crap.
Amazing. That game is astonishing. And that ending, holy crap.
Okay.
I highly recommend everyone to play it.
That's a high praise.
Really
I hit claim and I was like, I'll get to this.
No, it's really good. Like,
all right.
Nice. I played the first one, and I got to say, the first one I was very impressed by it. I thought it was really, really good. But the second one, I haven't really touched it. But like, even the first one, when you get to the end, and like, you can almost see a little bit of a commentary to society in the middle there as you are going through the game. It's a little bit crazy, but I was really surprised with what the team did, and I can't wait to eventually check out what they do it too as well.
I can tell you that the second one is a prequel, and it does set up the first one. And trust me, it's amazing.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Outside of that, I've, as you all know, started the movement with the I Believe in Anthem, and I'm pushing quite hard with that. So I've been playing a bit of Anthem as well to try and influence those numbers a bit more, to try and tip the scale, as it were.
Tip it.
Just a bit, just a titch.
This is the week. Like as we have our obviously Outriders hype and excitement, the core of it is that also in line is coming up on 2 years of Anthem, man. Will that game continue? That's a big topic that we're going to be covering here in just a few minutes. Any other games? Man, I'm excited to check out Little Nightmares now. Like I was just like,
no, definitely. I'm going to sit down and play the first one tomorrow.
I played the demo with my wife, and it was absolutely amazing. Yeah, it was a little short demo, but
the game's about 4 or 5 hours long. It's not really.
I think
long.
so. I think that's what they said. Yeah, maybe 6 if you really take your time and looking at every nook and cranny. Yeah.
And the best thing, I only found one bug in the whole game.
Okay. Well, that's awesome, and that's very rare for how games have been going.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, yeah.
Did you like bugs with that game?
I mean, there are bugs in the game, but not the bugs that you like.
Yeah, perfect. How about you, Johnny? What are you playing?
Right now, I've just been trying to dedicate as much time as I can to Godfall, which really here as of late, because of the third wave of COVID-19, with my wife and I both being healthcare workers. My wife is a registered nurse, and she's actually the head nurse of her facility's COVID unit. On top of that, it's been extremely hectic. So yeah, it's been pretty taxing overall. That plus, having 4 kids at home with school, 3 of them are little, requiring one-on-one attention. My oldest just turned 18. My youngest is 6. And then I got 2 middle boys of 8 and 9. Sorry. So yeah, it's pretty challenging, but yeah, I've just been playing Godfall as much as I possibly can.
Is that an easy game to kind of pick up, put down, come back to?
Yeah, I would like to think so, because it's one of those things. I mean, yeah, you do get a little rusty, but it's one of those that it's a little hard to forget. It's not like Anthem. I would consider Anthem to be a higher skill cap than Godfall, just because you got to know how your maneuverability and your flight systems and all that stuff are in Anthem. But yeah, it's definitely what I would consider an easy game to say, yeah, I can play this casually and come and perform within an hour to a level that you were whenever you left it a month ago.
Okay.
Are you playing multiplayer at all, or just solo?
So the thing with Godfall that I've noticed is that with the multiplayer, for some reason, I don't know if it's some sort of interaction with their servers or what the deal is, but sometimes multiplayer can be pretty laggy. I do try to get some multiplayer. I have a couple of really good fans that have been really big supporters of me. Little shout out to Morkai. He actually kind of gave me my very first video that gave me my most hits. And he's been a really big supporter of my channel in particular. So yeah, I try to hit up multiplayer with him as much as I can, and a couple of the other guys. But a lot of my builds, I've kind of centered around playing solo, because I feel a lot of people, given the state of the game, probably fall into that category. So, I try to showcase my builds in a singular format.
That's fantastic. Yeah, his videos are fantastic, guys. If you have not seen them or had the opportunity to check it out, link is in the description. Can't recommend it enough. I really actually it's made me want to go and update my Godfall and go get back into it. I enjoyed my Godfall experience. I just am like you guys, a dad and busy, and it comes down to what am I going to play? and I tend to default back into like where I'm playing with my friends. Like you talk about the whole COVID thing. This is a reality we're all facing. Thank you and your wife for your service. I've worked in healthcare, but my capacity as a programmer, helping software, keeping y'all's computers logging the charges. So it's like not a real direct, like actually helping out with healthcare in this case. But Jamie says Season of the Chosen is fantastic right now, LOL. And that's what I've been playing. I actually stepped back in a little bit on Tuesday, and I've so far enjoyed the experience. It feels like we're actually with the battlegrounds having like there's a real semi-conflict with the Cabal in this case. And so with Destiny, it's a game that I like to pop back in. The gameplay is what gets you hooked. And then, the BS is what has you go and say, all right, I guess I'll see you next season or something of that nature. So I'm not too worried. I'm not sitting here trying to no life Destiny. Thank God I haven't built my content like 100% on Destiny. I like to make my guides. I like to sit here and talk to people about the game itself. And I like to play with friends. And with crossplay somewhere on the horizon, I think that will help me enjoy Destiny a little bit more rather than having to sit here and be like, what platform are you on? Are we going to do the raid? And, I'm not ready.
Have they confirmed that they're doing crossplay? I'm sorry, I hadn't heard anything about
it. It's coming in 2021 for Destiny, which will be huge overall. Yes. So at the core of it, I'm excited to be back there this weekend. I am thrilled. Just downloaded Super Mario 3D World, got Bowser's Fury. It's apparently going to be like 8 degrees here in North Texas. So I'm going to be chicken. I'm going to be chilling I'm going to be a chicken because that's what my daughter would call me or something. We're going to be playing that with the family. So it's like we got some pizzas. It's just going to be like a family game weekend. And I'm going to be playing some Mario this weekend. So I'm really looking forward to that. All right. That brings us to our first kind of topic, a little bit of updates regarding news. Outriders, Minecraft, PS2, Godfall, all the like fun things to kind of get you guys caught up to speed on. And I'm going to go ahead and start with, I'll actually share my screen because I did not do this earlier. If you guys haven't seen the news, this is exciting stuff for me. I don't know if it's not for y'all, like, oh, well, suck it. Outriders is going to be supported on GeForce Now day and date, and especially the demo itself. So I was kind of stressed about this. I was like, where should I play? Because if you guys haven't seen, Outriders does not support cross save outside your platform. So you can have Xbox One. No. It says cross play. I hate how they've broken this up. So it's like you gotta have to say like, so cross progression exists on Xbox One, Xbox Series X, or PS4, PS5. But if you have a PC, a Stadia version, like that's a new character. However, we can still all play together. It's a bummer, but at the same time, at least we have cross play. So for me, I've been like, where should I start? Like, should I start on Xbox or should I I just got my PC got delayed because of COVID, so I got a couple weeks more to wait. Not a big deal. Like, there's worse things in the world. But I got a new ultra-wide monitor, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna play because this game supports the DLSS. It supports all of this stuff, and I want to have that amazing experience. Oh, do I have to have another character? Well, now I don't have to worry about it because if I want to play any room in my house, I can now tap in to the power of GeForce Now. I can now tap in, play on PC. I can play downstairs, and if I want to, I can pick it up. I do think I'd love to know the panel's thoughts here. I think not having cross save sells less copies. I hope that's what the data ends up showing. What do you guys think about this news?
I think that crossplay and cross save should be things that are just like, they should just be universal pretty much. Mm-hmm. Like, I do think that this sells less copies because a lot of people, sometimes they prefer playing on a different platform. And a while back, I even had this idea that like, look, whenever you buy a game, if this is a multi-platform game, they should just like give you keys for every platform. So you would just like buy a box or something that would have a key for your PlayStation version, your Xbox version. It should just be a universal thing, and having cross progression should also be a universal thing. Crossplay is a little bit harder. I get it. But like, it's so weird to me that you have crossplay, you're always online, and you're not going to allow cross progression. I mean, we're already logging into your servers. Like, it's not even like we have to trade this data between PS4 and Xbox. No, we're logging into your servers. The data's there. Like, I don't get it. So,
I think it has to do with shops, right? I think at the core of it, Destiny does it with cross save, but if I got silver because I bought some version on PC. So I have 1,000 silver that I have yet ever used. Because I don't really engage with microtransactions. And I know a lot of gamers don't like MTX. I have no issue with it because I never touch it, right? But anyway, that being said, I have 1,000 silver on PC. When I go log in on Stadia or Xbox, I don't have that 1,000 silver. Like it's any kind of shop or currency is game specific.
But you still have your progress.
You still have your progress.
Yeah, because like that's the same thing that Dauntless does. Like I bought, I mean, I haven't bought Dauntless, but like I had a season pass or something like that on PS4, and I would still have the same progression on PC. It's just I wouldn't have all of the currency that I got on PS4, and it's like I don't care because if I need to buy something, I'll just go to PS4, buy it there, and it will still be available. Because like I even had the PlayStation exclusive items; they would show up on PC as well. So this problem has already been solved.
Yeah, it has been. And that's where I don't know if they're doing a good job communicating that, because even I was like, yeah, like your character's your character. You log in, you play wherever. Great. I'm going to get this on all the platforms, especially if it's a good game, especially because like I think gamers love to show their support when companies do it right. I'm at least thankful it's crossplay. You know, like at a minimum, it has that we don't have to be separate regardless of our preferred platform. And it's all and my conundrum is a unique one. It isn't one that everybody faces. Oh, you mean you can't play on every device you own? Brian, the content creator, like, shut up, you whiny ginger. Let's go. Go ahead. Yeah.
Where is the data saved? If the data is saved on your local machine, that's probably where the issue is.
Could be.
Because with Destiny, it's saved on the Bungie servers, right? With Dauntless, it's saved on the Dauntless servers. Ubisoft now have this system called Ubisoft Connect, where you can physically upload your save into the Connect network and then download it on PC or the Xbox or whichever one you want. And that save will be formatted to that platform's specific language, and you can continue from where you were. If Outriders is saving to your local, this is the reason why. They probably don't have a local infrastructure where all of this is being held.
It's an always online game, Chaos. Like that
doesn't mean that they're going to save it there, though.
That's true. I guess that makes sense. Who knows? We wish. No, Trevor's calling me out saying Brian doesn't touch microtransactions, but intends to buy the new whale mount for 14. Love you, Brian. To be fair, like in my own defense in that regard,
it's really big.
I'm buying it as well. I'm buying it as well.
I wail hard on Final Fantasy, guys.
It can sit 8 players. What do you mean?
It is the one thing everyone has to buy.
I think for myself, like I've never had an issue with that aspect as it relates to FanFest. I don't go and buy anything off the shop outside of the fact that like I've always gone to the FanFests, and in my mind, like I was paying for a ticket that always included the ticket. This is just my digital ticket in a way. So like but it's true. Like I will be wailing on this whale for Final Fantasy.
I hate microtransactions, but I do have a Fantasia problem. I keep wanting to be a Lalafell and then back to higher. So
why would you want to be a potato?
Dude, because they're dwarves, man. It's awesome.
You want us to kick you about?
Yeah.
Hey,
keep on kicking. All right, let's go into some other news, guys. If from again a looter perspective, a game that I've thoroughly enjoyed is Minecraft Dungeons. Has anybody been keeping up with it? They've been adding lots of new DLC. So if you guys haven't seen, they just added a whole new DLC, and apparently here's the game director. So I was trying to find these trailers, but they're like 10 seconds short. So look at this other semi-ginger while we talk about Minecraft Dungeons for a bit. Have you guys kept up with this game at all? I've enjoyed playing it with my kids. It has crossplay now, but it doesn't have cross save. It's another one that has crossplay, but it doesn't have cross save.
How would you do this?
But it is coming.
Crossplay is coming?
With PC.
I mean, sorry, cross save is?
Yeah, apparently you from what I've read, you should be able to save your file on Xbox and
thank God, because that's the hardest thing, because I was like really enjoying it. I have a couple of videos, and I might as well just share the ideas that I had for this summer. Like, this is how bad of a content creator I am. I was like, hey, I want to make all the Final Fantasy jobs in Minecraft Dungeons. And I was like, how cool would that be to do? And like, here's the skills you need to do whatever. But I would be playing with my kids as a priority. And then like, I would go, okay, now I'm going to go to the PC where I can capture and I can, oh wait, I got to start all the way over. this is not going to work. I don't have this kind of time. Brian, why haven't you gone to work in a couple of months? Because I have a video idea and I think it's amazing. And it never happens. It never happens.
I actually really like this game. When it came out, me and my kids were all over it. My son still plays it to this day. His gear is ridiculous at this point in time. He looks at me and just laughs at me at my pitiful gear when I get a chance to play with him.
Yeah.
He's like, Dad, that's easy. And there's me hacking away, struggling. He just comes, push. Like there's nothing there.
That's where
I got Brian,
go ahead, Johnny.
Touching back on that whole cross save thing, I think a lot of it has to do, well, maybe not a lot of it, but some of it for sure has to do with licensing, because anytime they do any type of cross save on a designated server outside of the local host, they have to apply for licensing where they have to be able to prove that their data segment is secure. So they have to apply for the proper permits. And of course, there's extra expenditures with that. So I think a lot of companies, they have to kind of ride that fine line whenever they're developing a game, saying, okay, do we want to allocate these funds to this particular licensure so we can do this for them, or do we want to soak this money into something else, like another feature or some better textures or something like that? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Soak it into cross save.
Well, I got bit by the fact that it didn't have the cross save because I thought it did. So I was like, all right, I'm going to get this. I got Game Pass, so I'll just download it here. I went ahead and purchased it because we were having so much fun with the game. And then I was like, I'll pick it up on Switch. And then it's like starting over again. Like, oh my gosh. Like, yeah. And it's unfortunate it didn't launch with cross play, but it's one of the games that I hope that I can jump back into here, especially with the kids. And as it's been winter and we haven't, we're playing some Mario, but I'm looking forward to this. I think overall it seems pretty awesome and exciting to see. So, guys, again, the Howling Peaks, it looks like that's some new DLC. If you guys haven't been keeping up with the Minecraft series in that regards, go and check it out for yourself. Let us know what you're thinking in this case. Let's see here. Do I have my next update? I don't. 1 second. Okay, great. Awesome. Okay. Shifting us forward in more of the news here, we've got some new Phantasy Star Online 2, new Genesis. They've been teasing out some screenshots. Let's go and show those up here in a little bit better, fuller screen glory. In this case, you can see either the Techer, in this case with the wand. They've been kind of teasing the Force and all the different classes coming into New Genesis. It's about to drop the new engine over in Japan, so this looks to be I hope sometime this year. But also, if you guys haven't seen, PSO2 has just or is now about to drop into the Epic Game Store as well. This is a cross-play, cross-progression, cross-save game. So it's like it's got the whole, it's got everything we want. We're just kind of waiting for this whole new engine. Guys, let's talk about PSO2 for a little bit. I don't know if you guys are PSO2 players, but I love it. Go ahead, Rory.
I got to grill you on this because I've actually been wanting to talk PSO with you as well, because I haven't checked in too much on PSO. It's like one of the reasons I'm super interested in it is because a lot of people say that the original PSO is kind of like what generated the almost like the genre of Monster Hunter, which is the whole theme of you teaming up with 3 other players and going out on a quest, like that type of play style. And so I've been very interested in PSO. So first thing I got to ask, have they said anything about PlayStation up until this point or no?
So in Japan, it is PlayStation focused. So it's like, that's where it's launching. It's also a Nintendo Switch.
On PS5?
Yeah, like it's going to be on PS. Well, right now they said PS4, but you would probably most likely bet that you'll see a PS5 client.
I mean, you can run everything PS4 and PS5, so that wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a problem. So it would be there, but essentially you want to have that backwards compatibility aspect. Yeah. Or you want that, like you want to take full advantage of the features of the PS5, which Final Fantasy 14 is getting full PS5.
Yeah, that is so good.
On the 13th. So
that looks so juicy. I can't wait because I do play it on the PS5. I'm playing the old ass PS4 version right now. But it's like it still runs really good because like they give you 1440p resolution if you put it on resolution mode, and it runs like 60 FPS, and it's not taking full advantage of like the new hard drive on the PS5, but it's still loading faster than like a regular SSD. So I'm like, dude, I don't have any problems. Once they put the PS5 version though, it's going to be even faster than what it is right now. So that is amazing. I love it.
Yeah, so that's what's happening in the Americas. We have it on Xbox, and we'll have a Series X thing. I think that's hopefully a time thing. Microsoft paid money. Sony had 8 years to bring it over to the West. They never did. Microsoft said, "Hey, let's make this happen." I still think it needs to come to PlayStation here in the West. I think that will be overall good for the community, good for the game. As for time frame, we don't know yet. Just like we don't know about Final Fantasy VII or I'm really getting frustrated by all these like companies trying to lock down games for longer than a year. I think a year should be your maximum time for a timed exclusive, but Sony's been paying for 2 years for some Square Enix stuff as well. So I do want to toss to this because back kind of like our thoughts on PSO and Destiny. If you guys have never seen, Destiny and Phantasy Star Online are the same game. There are 3 playable races. You have 3 classes within each specialty of the races. You have 4 core playable zones. You with overgrowth bullet sponge bosses at the end. A cloak guy who identifies unknown items in town. You have lobby soccer. You've got rudimentary character creation with lots of styles. You have blade dancing. You have floating shoulder robots. You have generic colored polygon item drops. You can chill in the lobby. You can single unique special attacks that charge up as you play. Expansive colonies mysteriously disappeared into the darkness. Armor slots for perks and upgrades. And then you have it has this mid-mission cake vendors. It has a question mark there, but it is so ridiculous when you actually put it side by side. Phantasy Star Online 2 has influenced a massive amount of the looter and games to this day, and it's done it so well that you can clearly see where Anthem missed. Like when you look at where Anthem missed, it's like, did they not ever play Phantasy Star Online? Because it launched at such a even though like it's an older game. Like it's still something that we hold to ourselves.
According to Jason Schreier, they weren't even allowed to mention the word Destiny.
And that's a problem.
Yeah. That is like the worst thing you can do creatively. You got to look at your surroundings to see what's succeeding and what's not. Not one game is succeeding in all corners.
Right.
So you take the best from all areas and then you create your product.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, at this time, I do want to kind of toss it over into the Godfall, lane. Johnny, if you said you've been playing this, it's got the new update. They released a trailer. Again, we have a lot of people talking to the camera, not a lot of gameplay. Yeah, it is what it is. What's going on with Godfall?
So they, in their classic format, they just decided, hey, we might have a little announcement of some kind, and hey, here's a whole new update for you. Play it. They kind of hinted around that they were going to, do something with the event that was streaming on Twitch there the other day. But yeah, then they just dropped the update right in everybody's lap. The floor 20 is the new level 50. They made a bunch of changes to the tower, or I should say the Ascended Tower of Trials. It functions completely different from what it used to be. Some of the key features is Banes. Banes is a very interesting feature. So every 3 levels, it used to be that you had a boss that you had to fight. Mm-hmm. Well, now whenever you complete that floor, you have to select a Bane. A Bane is something that is a negative stat modifier. And the trade-off is for that negative stat modifier, you get a bonus of some kind. Like it might give you plus 5% to loot drops or something of that sort. And really becomes like a delicate balance of, do I, nerf myself in this way first and, deal with that mechanic? Mm-hmm. Or do I wait until later to pick it? And then also they added in a new dynamic to the floors as well, where you might enter a floor and they completely disable your life stones. You have no healing whatsoever, other than whenever you're beating up on the trash mobs and they drop the little green globes and you heal that way. Another floor, they might completely disable your Archon Fury, so you have no ultimate ability. And all you have is healing and whatever base skills you have, your weapon techniques. So they've added all these interesting little layers, and they've also beefed up a lot of the modifiers that were already pre-existing. And one thing that I do feel that they did do right is they added a boon upgrade. What you do is whenever you defeat your mobs in the elevator floors, you get your doors that you can choose. Mm-hmm. One of those doors might be a boon upgrade door. You go in, and whatever boon that you have chosen, which is a buff to your character, say for instance 65% plus damage to your northern weapon technique, you can go in and you can actually upgrade that bonus to say like 85% or whatever that stat modifier is. So they made it more integral, and you get to interact more with that buff other than just completely leaving it up to RNGesus, as it were.
So I'm sorry, I have a question. So they didn't actually add like new levels or anything like that. It's basically like it's still the same tower that it was back when it launched, and you're still essentially doing like the same gameplay loop that you were doing of repeating like the what was the other thing as the tower? I forget, the
Dreamstone.
Dreamstones. Yeah. So you're basically still doing that, right? Dreamstones and Tower of Trials.
At a basic level, yes, but they also made changes to the Dreamstones as well. It used to be before with each particular segment, like if you were doing the higher level 3, you would have 4 fights, including the boss. And after you finished each segment, you got to pick your boon, right? And the boss had stat modifiers that they were either weak to a particular, skill or element, or they were strong against it. They completely wiped that out. That is no more. Now they have like this little gauge system where you earn points for every single segment that you complete within that Dreamstone. And it costs you a certain amount of stability, right? It's a stability gauge, which they literally call it stability. But every single time you complete that, it draws away from that because the boss takes quote unquote action on it. But in return, whenever you complete that, you get lucidity points. Those lucidity points you can use to buy various items from the Dreamstone itself as a reward, basically. So when you complete that Dreamstone, you can either have mats or, a particular piece of equipment. Like say, for instance, you want to receive a red augment as a reward. You can actually purchase that with lucidity points. I think they're usually around 5 or 7, depending on the rarity or something like that. So they completely revamped that whole section. And whilst you're still doing the Ascended Tower of Trials, and it is still the same game loop, it is slightly different in that it's much harder than what it was. I streamed it for 2.5 hours last night, and it is completely different. Like, it doesn't even feel like the same Tower of Trials at all. They also added some game modes as well. One of them is whenever you're actually on the main boss floor, you have 3 points, A, B, and C. And the mobs are actually going and spawning in, and they're attacking the crystals that are in that point. So the objective is you have to actually go to that point, and at least one person in your team has to be in there. Otherwise, the mobs will continue to drain that crystal's energy, and you have to basically just fight them off. If you succeed in protecting that crystal by the end of the incursion, then you get a loot chest out of it. So, if you do good and you protect all 3 crystals, you get 3 loot chests. So that makes it kind of nice.
So how would you do that if you're solo?
Yeah, that's where the real challenge is. Towards the end of my streaming event last night, I just dropped it down to normal mode just to see how far I could get. And I mean, if you're going to protect all 3 of those crystals and you're going to get all 3 of those chests, you got to have a pretty superb build. And I was using a build for Vertigo that wasn't quite finished and needs to be tweaked now because of the new patch. But yeah, I mean, it really puts your builds to a test. So they really raised the skill bar. It actually adds a little bit of dynamic to it that originally wasn't there.
But see, that's the thing that, like, I feel the developers are really missing the mark on the problems that Godfall has, which is like, my problem wasn't with the end game loop of the game itself. Cause like, yeah, sure, I'm fine. I'll grind this stuff. My biggest problem, and it's actually one thing that as I've talked with Brian about Outriders, is one of the things that I'm the most interested in, which is the fact that the problem here is the repetition, that basically the levels that you've done on your way to endgame is the exact same stuff that you're doing on endgame. Like, the bosses that you fight in the Dreamstones are the same bosses that you fought throughout the game until you get to the very last boss. These are the exact same bosses. Like, they have the modifiers, they're a little bit tougher, but I think even in terms of strategy, they're essentially the same strategy. They just hit harder, so you have to do the mechanics a little bit better. And so the problem there is like, I just feel like they don't get it. It's like, we're really refining the end game. It's like, no, what you need to do is put more areas in the game, put stuff that we want to go and see new things. Like your problem is not a mechanical problem, because the game mechanically I think is okay. I mean, I don't think it's super duper mega, but I really enjoyed my time with it. So I thought it was cool. The problem is you just need more things, more new things, fresh things for me to just like, you know, if you had told me, oh, dude, they made a whole new zone in there. Like if you reach past level 5 in the tower or something, like it's completely different than what it was before. It's like a golden tower now or something. And there's new maps and new things there to explore. That would get me back. You just telling me, oh, you can, you know, now you have more control over the loot that you get. The modifiers make it hard. It's like, I don't care. Like I want to see new things.
Any update on crossplay?
What was that, Brian?
Any update on like crossplay? Because it's PS5 and PC, and those two don't talk.
I mean, before we get to crossplay, I think is there any matchmaking still?
No, they don't have any matchmaking as of yet. And touching more, yeah.
I mean, forget crossplay. Matchmaking is one of the.
I'm gonna go out on a lim and be like, dude, I think maybe cover a lot more Outriders in the next couple of months.
My biggest issue, Outriders. Godfall. My first time playing. No matchmaking was one of the big things that stood out for me. It meant that I had to find someone that was already playing it, because I jumped into that, you know, that pond really late. There was no one to play with. But
there was no one to play with.
Along the, you know, just the main campaign, just going along, you get introduced to these things called hunts, which is a really cool idea, which should have been match made. A great idea. But then you realize that you need, straight from the bat, you need to do them multiple times just to progress. And then you get to the next city, and they require you to go back to the previous city to do those exact hunts again, like 4 or 5 times. I mean, where I am in the game now, I need to go back to the first city and do it like 8 times for the first one, then go to the second city and do it another 8 times, and go to the third city and do it another 4 times. That repetition is boring, and that is where it threw me away.
Go ahead, KSI.
I think they just got it so wrong, and they realized they didn't have the content to back it up, so they decided to just artificially pad it out, and that was definitely the wrong thing to do. You don't artificially pad it out, because the moment you do that, you push people away.
Yeah, that's why I have hopes. Go ahead, Rory.
I just wanted to say, like, you didn't get there late. It's like I had the game before release, and the day of release, I couldn't find anyone to play online. A week after release, I still couldn't find anyone to play online. I basically reviewed the game without even playing multiplayer, because I couldn't find anyone to play.
Same, absolutely the same.
It's like,
that's a rough life. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, you know, they introduced a lot of dynamics, but like Chaos said, you know, I feel like they really missed the mark of where they really needed to be, because even still, after 2.5 hours, I feel like the game really isn't where it should have been whenever it first launched, for sure. You know, they've got it now where, you know, bosses can spawn in on the elevator floors. That was, you know, never really a for sure thing before, and they can spawn in invisible and all this other stuff. And they've incorporated all the bosses now. So all the bosses that you face in the whole game can actually fall into any of the floors that they originally weren't even found in before. But, you know, on top of that, they also included new loot to chase. You know, they introduced these new primal weapons and primal gear, which, by the way, in the 2.5 hours that I was farming, I didn't get a single one.
Okay. but
you know, yeah, you know, they're 50% stronger than what the original normal legendary variant is, and they have an extra stat modifier. So they increased the loot chase a little bit, but still, you know, given that it is a patch, it's a good patch, but it still doesn't, like you said, Chaos and Rory, it doesn't really say, oh, hey, come back. You know, if you've been gone for a month or whatever, you know, you can come back and dabble in it, but it's not one of those things I have to come back. Like, I've got to see this. It's like, okay, I could probably do without this until they actually bring out their paid expansion that, you know, by the way, I've already paid for. And so many other people did as well, just simply because, you know, you got the bonus content and so forth and so on, you know, but I feel like they should have done a little more, maybe delayed it another month and done a little bit more to make it more appealing. Because, Outriders, Outriders has got everybody captivated right now. I mean, I'm definitely going to be covering it on my channel, and I know you guys are too, so I don't know. They got a tough road ahead of them, even with their paid expansion that they've got coming up. I mean, they've got a tough road ahead of them, especially if Outriders does it right.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do have that, that competition going into Outriders, where I think we're hungry for as gamers is that is for somebody to come out, do it right at the start, even if you have a couple of missteps. Like gamers are going to be like, yeah, okay, they need to patch this or change that a little bit, but at the core, you got your crossplay, you got like great, like these amazing 4 classes, lots of crazy builds, ways to upgrade your gear. There's so much that the game seems to have learned from like other missteps and hopefully other games. And that should give it's a strong thing. That brings, we'll have a topic here. This is our first topic, talking about what we're doing. What does our day one of Outriders look like? But like when we talk about here Anthem in just a few minutes, Anthem's got a ticking clock on it, because all it's going to take is somebody to come out, do it right from the start, and captivate everybody's attention clearly and easily. So let's start with that. I want to go with Rory first. Rory, what is your day one look like for Outriders? What are you doing as this countdown counts down to the demo?
I mean, my day one, what is my day one Outriders? You mean on the actual demo, when the demo goes live, what am I going to do?
Yeah,
I'm 100% like gonna live stream it. Like I'll figure out whatever time the demo actually launches. I'll boot up a live stream on YouTube, and just gonna go in, pick up the what's the name of the Pyromancer. I'm gonna grab the Pyromancer and I'm gonna test out all of the powers of the Pyromancer, because I'm indecisive between 2 of them, which is the Pyromancer and the Devastator, because Devastator is tanky boy and I love tanks. But I've heard that you can kind of like build around the Pyromancer to also be very tanky. So I'm just going to be experimenting with it and figuring out which one of these 2 is going to be my main class. And obviously I want to feel what the gunplay is like, see if it feels like it's solid. I want to, just test out how the difficulty evolves. I don't know how much we'll be able to test out in the demo though, because, I also don't want the game to just become like, okay, now it's bullet sponge time. Like I want to see as much of that as I possibly can, basically. But just going to dive in head first and test out the 2 classes that I'm interested in.
What platform are you guys starting in?
I mean, is the demo going to be available on all platforms? Is it going to be a PC thing?
It is.
Okay, then I'm gonna play PS5 100%.
Nice. All right, Chaos, how about you, man?
Me, day one, I'm going to be streaming this with a bit of luck, hopefully. But I will definitely be trying out Trickster. I've got access to about 100 of the mods that I've seen around, so I'm going to be hunting for those. But Trickster is going to definitely be the one I'm looking for, just to go in, see if it's everything it's supposed to be, everything I dream it to be. And if it's not, then I'm just going to weep in a corner and move on.
What makes it everything you want it to be? Like what makes you go from the demo and where you're cursing the fact that time has to pass from 25th to April 1st? Like what is it? What is your litmus test on the 25th look like?
I just want it to be fun, and when I jump into it, I think you can play about 3 or 4 missions of the story. I want that to grab me. Those 3 or 4 missions, I want that to grab me by the kahunas and say, "You're coming with me."
What about you, Johnny? Oh, go ahead.
Me? Yeah, I was gonna say, because if the story is captivating and interesting, and the gameplay follows suit, this is gonna be a special game.
What about you, Johnny?
Yep. Day one for me, if I'm not working, which I have to double check, but I'm pretty sure I am. But whenever I am not working, I will definitely be going with the good old tech build. That particular type of support class has always been very appealing to me in all games, because they're usually like the big underdog. There's someone that's overlooked in the very beginning, and then towards the very end, whenever they start to get into in-game content, they're like, "Oh crap, we kind of need this type of player." So, and then you're in short supply but high demand. So, I'll definitely be streaming it probably night one whenever I actually do play. And just same as everybody else, I'm definitely going to be hunting, to get builds going as soon as possible, because that's kind of my thing. I've been doing builds for a long time, so I'll definitely be putting out build videos as soon as possible.
So Potato says, story and lore are going to be lit. Watch the interview with the main writer on PAX, and I'm hyped for every aspect. of Outriders.
I have. This is why I'm very interested.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just hoping it plays out the way they envision it. And I hope there's no bureaucratic person there going, no. We need this to be this way because of this reason.
Yeah.
We need to have that there, and it's going to ruin everything. I just want the bureaucrats to just go away and let the creative writers do what they need to do and make it a really, really, engrossing story that we can get into.
I'm definitely a story guy, especially when it comes to games, and those are the kind of games I play. My concern from a multiplayer aspect is how that I haven't seen a multiplayer game really nail the story out of the gate. It typically takes, I've always seen it like a couple of patches or expansions. Like 14, I think, is a really good example of that, pacing wise and more. Anthem really kind of like struggled in that area, specifically trying to have that real narrative. Like, while I just adored the characters in the game, like it was kind of like, hey, here's your multiplayer with friends, and then okay, guys, I got to mute and go on and watch this cutscene and things like that. Well, ultimately, that works for like a handful of playthroughs. I hope that the lore and the world in and of itself gives you reasons to go try to hide and go find every nook and cranny and piece of flying.
I mean, one of the things that they're doing that is really cool is the fact that, like, say you want to mainline the story at first, you can do that, and then the rewards actually scale depending on the difficulty and your level for the side quests. So you can basically, even if you're helping somebody out and doing a side quest later down the line, it is still useful for you. You can still get good loot out of those quests. But I wanted to touch up on something that you said about the Anthem being a little bit on the clock with Outriders. Like, okay. I'm not sure how much I agree with that, because Outriders, they've stated themselves like, this is not games as a service. So it's like Outriders, I feel, is going to be one of those games that you play it for a couple of months or something, and then eventually you just kind of like move on to another game, depending on how they're planning on doing their DLC and whatnot. Yeah. And I'm not trying to say this in a negative way. Like, to me, that's the way that I like to consume a lot of games. Like, right, I'll play it, I'll enjoy it, I'll get all the loot, get all the builds out that I want, and play it probably like, I don't know, 500 to 1,000 hours, depending on how much I'm enjoying it, and then just like move on. Like that's the way that I like it, actually. Like, because like Anthem tried doing the whole thing. Oh, we're gonna do this game, and like Destiny did, the first Destiny. Oh, it's a 10-year game. It's like, no, first you make a good game, then you think about how you're gonna support it. Like, don't come out of the gate swinging, this game will last for 10 years. Like, no, that's not how it works.
I have long thought that from a Trojan horse mentality, that marketing and that mindset is just release a really good game. And then if there's a community there that wants more, then continue to give them more content. I would think that Outriders will benefit from like an expansion model in that vein, where it's like, cool, here's your game, play it for a month, 3 months, like whatever. Like, here's your game, here's your replay, here's your builds. Oh, and by the way, new expansion. And all of a sudden, oh, now you're back, and now the progress that you made. But it gives them the ability to not sell me a future. And that's where Anthem's like, we're going to sell you, like a game that in 10 years, it's like, I don't think that marketing works as well. I think the other thing, and I was thinking about putting out a video on it this week, but I decided not to, because it's like, I'm busy. But I was like, I hope that people don't try to label Outriders or games like as a Destiny killer. I think that's a curse. I think if you really want to curse a game, like, give it a killer name. Like, it's killer. Like, no. Like, let it just be what it is. Let it just be a good game. But let's not sit here and say like, okay, this is what's going to, we need this game to go out and just destroy and shut down this other game because I'm mad at this other game for some reason. It ends up always, I feel like, backfiring in a way when people give it that label.
Yeah, I think
like the good old WoW killer fantasy.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna bring up. Like, I used to play WoW, and it's like every MMO that come out, this is the one. It's gonna kill WoW.
Like Warhammer Online, Age of Reckoning.
I actually really liked Warhammer Online.
It was good, for the time.
I think with the fault in it is that they tried to go with that 2-faction system, especially when you look at Warhammer as a game. It's like they should have just leaned into like 100, like here's 50 factions, like whatever, like multiple factions all fighting and vying. But they were like, it had that WoW model of like, you have the Horde and the Alliance, you've got the Chaos, and you got, I forget what the non-Chaos one was. But it's like, yeah, like I enjoyed that, and then I went and played Final Fantasy 11 1.0 because I'm a masochist.
Well, they really pioneered the Fate system too. You know, what eventually became incorporated into Final Fantasy 14 as Fates. You know, they did a really good job with that, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always cool to see, and that's why I think we've been on this like gap of like innovation in games. Everything's kind of been like, oh, this is what it is. So I'm hopeful that we'll start to see some more of that in the game itself. But it's time to transition to kind of our topic. We kind of were touching on it just a second ago. Anthem. This is the week that it came out. That it's being decided by EA if it's going to live or die. So for anybody who does not know, from a game development perspective, you have what they've been working on. I know a lot of people have given Anthem a lot of crap because they said that they've gone to a 30-man team. As an engineer, I go, thank God. Like, what they need to do is go find what works and be as agile as possible. You don't want 100 people or 200 people in a meeting room trying to decide what is fun. Like, you got to go find less is more. Find the fun, get it working, get it right, in the sense of, we're not saying working for a publishing thing. What they've been doing is they've been working on it to present it, and then essentially like, hey, here's our vision, here's the fun. This is good. Now this is what we need to take it and fund it. So if that's what's happening this week, and then the execs are going to review it, they're going to decide whether they want to keep writing those checks, because they're going to present to them the plan. Here's what it's going to take to get the game ready. Here's the cost. Here's how we're going to support it. And I hope that they vote yes. I like, just even watching the trailer right now, I'm like, there is some really good stuff that I think is worth saving. And if they can refine that, that's important. Anthem, will it live or die? Chaos, you're my Anthem guy. You're the guy I go to for Anthem opinions first and foremost. How has this week been for you?
It's been difficult. I mean, I've always enjoyed this franchise, and I know it can produce more. As you're aware, I started the I Believe in Anthem hashtag, which has been quite successful. I feel sorry for EA's Twitter account because that is getting bombarded like there's no tomorrow. But hopefully it will actually cause some dent, and show them that there is a community out there that actually does want this game to succeed and want it to thrive. I don't really feel like there's another game out there that quite plays like this one. I think it's quite unique in that aspect, and it offers something different to everything else. It just needed more content, and it needed to come out working first of all. But I'm not going to sit here and say the game was perfect at launch. It was far from perfect. I mean, it couldn't win at launch. It had its problems, but what I played of it personally with my friends, I had a blast, and if I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't have platinumed it. And I really did enjoy the experience. Now, as we know, as of today, we've received confirmation from Jason Schreier that the review has happened. So the execs are, dwelling over what they think of the presentation that they've had. Now, my sneaky suspicion will be that they're going to announce it on the 2-year anniversary around the 25th of February. Do you think that they could actually go to that level and do it to try and see how much of a disturbance and support it could cause?
Rory, what do you think? Will Anthem live or die? This is EA we're talking about.
I don't know. Like, I'm actually kind of scared because ultimately we've seen it time and time again whenever there's like a good idea and poor execution. It's one of those things that just tends to eventually die out, and then other studios are almost scared to pick something of that nature back up. And the flight mechanics in Anthem was like, I don't want to say like super unique, but here's the thing. When a good game, when a game has good traversal, it's one of the most special things you can have, because in a lot of games, you spend a lot of time going from point A to point B. And when you can make that as fun as they did in Anthem, which is basically, you just fly. And you particularly like, I even used to like playing the Ranger just because he could do the Superman swirl, not Superman, the Iron Man roll when he was in the air. And I was like, dude, this is awesome. Like, that's the main reason I played Ranger, because like I would actually prefer to play Colossus. But there's just something about the movement and the way that the abilities worked, because like the thing about the abilities was also just how available they were at all times. Like you could basically be spamming them. Like a lot of games, whenever you have like special abilities, like for instance, Destiny in its early days, it was always like, okay, I gotta really plan out when I'm going to use this grenade because it's going to be out for a good long while. And Anthem was like, no, dude, just use it. Doesn't matter. Did you miss? Who cares? Doesn't matter. It's going to be back up in a second.
Just keep on dropping them.
and the thing is, if they let it die, I don't think that any studio is going to have the guts to try something as ambitious as this again. And that's going to kind of suck because, we're not going to have this experience that we've had with Anthem ever again.
I think it makes it hard for me to trust any other live service game that BioWare or EA wants to release.
Oh yeah, and they want to with Dragon Age 4. It's going to be a live service supposedly. So it's like if they let Anthem drop, like you can kiss Dragon Age 4 goodbye because a big majority of the gaming player base is going to be like no.
If Dragon Age is good, one second, Cass. If Dragon Age 4 is good and it is a game as a service, I think people will come in. But I think there's going to hopefully people will have a very healthy skepticism. But what saving Anthem means to me is it means that even when we don't get it right, we're going to work to get it right. And despite everybody, whenever you look at a relationship that a gamer has with a game, most of the time that I see when gamers absolutely hate games, it's like, oh, I've poured 3,000 hours into it, and after 3,000 hours, I'm really fatigued, but I'm gonna vent because I feel like I'm not being heard. If the developers here, they understand and they work with the community to make the best game that the community wants to play, I think that's a plus. There's obviously gives and takes because, I think we were talking last week, a gamer will optimize the fun out of anything. So it's like we do have that tendency. So there's a balance there. But what it would tell me is that okay, yeah, they messed up. Okay, cool, but they've got it. They worked on it. They got it right, and I want to see it for the people who poured their time into it. A lot of people like to hate on EA, and I do. Everybody's as gamers, they're a weird company because occasionally they do things right, but more often than not, it's just damn, what are you guys doing? F you. But when it comes down to it, they're still hardworking developers who want to make great games. And just because they're under a publisher you might not like, I tend to root for developers over publishers. I could care less about the publisher, but I'm just I want people to make good games. Chaos, you were going to say something a second ago.
Yeah, so what I was going to say was, they've been working on this build for a year and a half now. That's a lot of investment. They've, if anything, Christian Daly has shown us is anything to go by in terms of new areas, new places that we're supposed to be visiting. This is a lot of investment for them to just turn around and say, hey, we're done with this. That year and a half that we had 30 people working on it is just going to be cancelled. I'm more inclined to say that they're going to accept it based on the fact that they've invested so much already and the fact that they made a promise. If they turn back from their promise, people don't forget that sort of thing. I don't. Yeah,
I think we're a gamer scorned is
yeah, and in regards to the whole team being a team of 30, Cory Barlog, the God of War director, when things were going really bad there, and they were shutting studios and pumping the stuff into the God of War team, into his team, he was saying the fact that we've got more people in the team now has slowed development down. So just because you've got 500 developers working on one game doesn't mean it's going to speed it up. In fact, it can have a complete adverse effect because at that point, you're waiting on everyone else to do that little bit of stuff that you're giving them before you can move on. And instead of it going from an agile environment, now you're going to waterfall environment, which slows development down quite a bit. So I think this squad of 30 was just about right. Let them get what they need to get in, get their vision in, and hopefully EA will see that the developers themselves are eager to get this through because, no one wants to spend a year and a half developing a build only to have it thrown out the door. That's a year and a half worth of work. And that's, a year and a half worth of salaries. It's a lot of money. Plus
it is.
It is.
It ain't cheap. Else. They made a lot of money off Anthem. At the end of the day, they made a lot of money. I hope that that they can get it right because I think gamers would love to have another Cinderella story, another game. Obviously we'd love a game come out right at launch, ready to go and without issues. But there's something to be said that when you put in the time, you make the sacrifice and you get it right, you work hard on it, gamers will give you another shot. Final Fantasy 14, No Man's Sky, or two rare exceptions. It's not a guarantee that you'll get it right, but I honestly hope that they will. Johnny, what do you think? Anthem, live or die? What's the call?
So, I come from a pretty extensive background with Anthem. Matter of fact, originally I was a huge PlayStation fanboy up until Anthem was announced, and I decided to pick up a Xbox One X so I could play with it and have the high fidelity that, the game offered, because the game looked amazing in the E3 trailer. The E3 trailer just blew everybody away. The whole world was mesmerized by the graphics that were being, portrayed there. And granted, we didn't get what was promised, but we still got a very, very good and highly visually appealing game. And it's funny in a way, because I look at this whole situation in a different way than what most people think. From a development standpoint, they were in development for, what was it, Chaos, like 6.5 years.
Yeah.
And there was so much turmoil and so many changing of hands with management and so forth and so on, that for literally 5 of those years, nothing really got done. The project was shelved. And a matter of fact, the flight mechanic itself, a lot of people want to bash on EA, but if it wasn't for EA, the flight mechanic wouldn't even be there.
Yeah,
that's the most shocking thing. And a lot of people don't even want to give EA credit for that. EA bad. But here's the thing. The mechanic, the one single mechanic for traversal in the game that is so much, so appealing, was kept in the game because of EA. If it wasn't for EA, Anthem wouldn't be where it is today. And, it's funny because I actually look, even though Anthem has its problems, had a lot of them, like Chaos said, you couldn't even log into the game for the first 2 or 3 days. The game is actually a relative success. It is a relative success
financially,
in a different way, because there's not a single gamer today that is part of the looter genre or has ever actually picked up a looter that doesn't know Anthem. I mean, it's the punchline of a lot of, jokes and criticism and stuff, but everybody knows it's there. It's like that pimple on your butt that won't go away. You know what I mean?
What a horrible analogy.
But I mean, it is. So here's the thing. It's in a very unique place because they've already dumped a crap ton of money into the game. They already have, even at the game in its current state, is a proof of concept, and it has proved that it works. So with that being said, the time that they've spent developing it further in a more streamlined fashion and the way that it should have been handled to begin with, because I said from the very beginning that the game should have been way further along than what it did, because really all they needed was like 2 years. I mean, just given the fact that they really only had 2 years to develop what they did and make a huge game. Well, it wasn't really a huge game, but the content that they did have in that short amount of time that they actually really developed the game, they actually did produce a product that was playable. And with that as a use of, proof of concept, I think they've probably played off of that and said, okay, here's the original proof of concept. Now here's the second one, and here's what we can really do with it. And I think that's going to appeal to investors, because let's face it, Anthem was a huge selling game. They recouped all their money and then some.
Yeah.
So the relative risk of failing a second time, I think, has been reduced by that simple fact. So this whole revamp for Anthem Next is just a second proof of concept, because the original proof of concept has already shown that it does work. So I think we're actually going to come out on the positive side of this, truthfully. I really do. Maybe it's hopeful. I don't know. But I think it's going to be a positive.
It's actually really funny that you brought that up, of how little time was put into the game, because I remember when I saw the Jason Schreier report where he talked about all of the stuff that happened throughout the development. I eventually made a video where I said, you know what? The people behind Anthem, that they're actually a really good development team, considering that the whole thing was made, I think it was like 8 months. I don't remember the exact timing of it, but I think it was like 8 months. Like, this whole game was made in like 8 months. Like, the assets were made, sure, but like all of the mechanics, everything came together in 8 months. Like, that's
with Frostbite, which is not an easy engine to work with.
It's not necessarily that it's a bad engine to work with. It's just that they decided to do a lot of things the hard way rather than. But it's clear to see that once they knew what they were making, then they started making it, as opposed to like, it was the Anthem's issue was all leadership. Like, oh, when you leave a meeting and you still have no clue what you should be doing, like, that's a bad meeting. That's a wasted meeting. There's nothing of value in that regards. And so ultimately we'll have to, like, I'm rooting for them. I would love to see some more Anthem. Like, what they got with the javelins, it felt so right. It woken up that PSO2 player in me as well. It's like, yes, let's get some more of this action. I can see what they were wanting to do, and I think they're doing the right thing by not, by stopping Let's reset it. Hopefully, as gamers, we get good news. But if it doesn't go our way and we don't get Anthem next, Anthem 2.0, I think that just sours me more to BioWare and to EA, and I think that's unfortunate. I think that's ultimately unfortunate. I know gamers are already there; they're already soured. I can't blame them. I'm not going to sit here and try to change their mind. But I think this is also kind of going to lead us into kind of another kind of topic of similar interest. Let's talk about CDPR getting hacked this week, because this is something that, like, when we talk about the core aspect of some of the issues within Anthem, Cyberpunk, where it's interesting that Cyberpunk in some circles has overtaken Anthem when it comes to not living up to expectations of the game. But this week, if you guys haven't seen, CDPR has been hacked. Assets are up for bid. If you want to, I guess, go bid on the black market for the code behind it,
well,
there you go.
Gwent has been publicly released.
What the
Gwent source code?
Yeah,
they've already released that publicly.
That just really sucks. It's like, look, I don't care how bad a game is. If a game is bad, talk about it, expose it, tell the people, okay, this game's bad. There's some real problems with it. But that's a crime, like basically stealing their source code and trying to sell that's just flat out crime. And I know that the people behind it don't give a damn, but it just kind of sucks. Like I never like seeing the gaming industry as a whole being target of like cyber attacks. Like whenever you see people going like DDoS servers of a game that's being popular at that particular point in time, and they're just like, oh, we're just showing you how I've once heard like something like, oh, we're showing you how artificial your life is. All you care about is the thing. Dude, shut the hell up, dude. Just like, shut the hell up. There's seriously evil corporations that you could be targeting with your cyber attacks, and you're targeting friggin' gaming companies. Like, get the hell out of here. Like,
especially in light of like when they delayed it, the game wasn't ready. They delay it, and then gamers go and start threatening the lives of the developers.
Yeah, that's
like it's such a tragic story because it could have gone so differently. And obviously, there's things that they weren't they're in their control, right? 2020 sucked for everybody. It wasn't any easier for game development because of just how hard it is, and it's so easy as gamers to say like, "Oh, it's just easy, just do X." Just press this button and it's going to be good. But I would love to have seen obviously Cyberpunk launch in a better state. But this is just I think another tragic story. Along those lines, I don't see the hackers as heroes by any means, especially releasing their source code, hacking into their systems, and more. And it's just fundamentally a disappointment. Chaos, any thoughts here, Dan?
I mean, to me, in the end, it's just a game. No one deserves to go through this. I mean, it's not just the source code of stuff that's been hacked, right? All HR documents have been hacked as well. People's addresses, phone numbers, bank details,
doxing.
Everything has been done. The whole thing was, the whole database was taken. And it's really disgusting to see this sort of thing happening over a video game. You go watch a bad movie in the cinema, you pay 30, 40 pounds, whatever it is, because you go with your partner, and it's a really crap movie, and you're like, well, whatever. You're paying the same amount of money for a game. Yeah, sure, it released badly. No one can hide that. The game wasn't ready, but does it really give anyone a right to go to that level? It's not like they're not trying to fix it. Unlike a movie where you can't really fix it unless you're Jack Snyder. Unless you're him. But they are trying to fix it. They know they messed up, and they openly knew what they were doing. So to a certain degree, they deserve the flack that they got, not the deference, but just the bad PR that they were getting. I think they deserve, because they openly lied to their communities. But for people to go to this level and hack them, and I was watching a different podcast this morning while I was working, and there was a bunch of respectable YouTubers on there just talking about games and stuff like that, and they were openly saying that they deserve to get hacked, and they
come on,
and it is disgusting. I mean, it's and there are so many people out there that actually believe this, but no one should be saying that in this day and age. It's fine. You spend 60 quid on the game, you burn that money anywhere in. You can burn that money on another game and not like it, or you go to the cinema and you don't like it. And to me, it's just wrong. It's wrong on so many levels, and all those employees now who have to now worry about if their bank account's going to get hacked, if their house is going to get burgled into, if their
especially when you have gamers who are upset and
mobile numbers are going to get hijacked,
right.
so they can just accrue like $1,000 bills for their, rent contracts and stuff like that. It's just a scary, scary situation to be in.
Now, utter disappointment, and he does. I'm going to put up this one as well, so nobody just like sit here and thinks that what they're saying is that not justifying what happened, but it says that CDPR is evil, though. See how they treat their employees. I want to kind of talk about just this as a topic for just a little bit, because first and foremost, this mindset should be applied to everybody, like every developer, like in a way. Now, I'm sure there are great developers that treat their employees fantastically, but however, it always ends up coming out later that it's like, yep, things were, you mean these developers are human? I'm not justifying how they treat their people. I'm just saying that being that we've gotten insight into BioWare and into CDPR, doesn't matter what people say publicly, there's always going to be something going behind the scenes. And people get into game development because they're passionate about game development, and publishers take advantage of that passion. So if I were to go into game development, I would probably make half what I make as a programmer. And what the offsetting that is that I'm making things that are exciting, that I'm passionate about. And there's a huge burnout and churnout in game development, because you get gamers who are like, yeah, I want to go make games. And then they just get, crushed because someone's going to put you to work for 60 to 80 hours a week. And as the game goes, and the general rule that I have, and I believe, is that as long as the game is good, gamers don't care. Like the argument that CDPR is evil and how they treat their employees would make, like, there'd be maybe a handful of people who would be like, yeah, I can't support them, but the game is good. And this is the other negative side of gaming culture. You couldn't have a realistic conversation about how crunch affects game devs, how all that happens. Like, all that conversation goes out the window. And if anybody brings it up, generally gamers are going to shut down the conversation and say, the game's good, shut up, just play the game. That's how they're getting paid for their time. I think essentially the only time we see that kind of argument about how the game developers are treated are when games don't live up to the expectation. Outside of that, if that was the general philosophy, gamers wouldn't play anybody's games, because everybody's getting taken advantage of in this situation. What are your thoughts? I'm going to start with Rory.
I think that right now there's this thing going on in the games industry, and it's like, look, this is like every other industry that exists. Like, if basically this is all about people's ability to negotiate. And I know that there's pressure and power plays and all of this stuff, but I don't necessarily agree with some of the articles that you see, because nowadays we can't even trust really mainstream media when it comes to, particularly when it comes to games, because a lot of times they'll have like agendas and stuff like that. And I've seen vicious attacks to CD Projekt Red from multiple outlets. And I'm not sitting here saying that they're lying or that they're not lying. But then we've also seen developers come out and say, no, that this is not how things are going down. Like, a lot of the stuff that you guys are saying is exaggerated or whatnot. So it's like, I would argue that 80 to 90% of the people discussing this specific issue of like all of the abuse and whatnot that's going on the games industry they don't even have the facts. Like, I don't have the facts. I'm not saying I do. I'm saying that most people don't even have the actual facts of what is going on. And I would also say in regards to crunch, because I'm someone that's basically like, I've crunched my whole goddamn life, and that's my choice. It is on me, to each their own. But it's like, I don't think that crunch is as terrible a thing as everybody makes it out to be. Like, for instance, if it's
coupled with reward in that regards, right? Like, if you're like, hey, we're all going to suck it up and suffer together, but there's pizza.
But
we're all doing this.
I remember there was this article where two of the lead writers or whatever from Red Dead Redemption, they were talking about how they just crunched for like 2 weeks straight because they wanted to do it. And people were like, oh my God, that's terrible. And it's like, it's their choice. They're getting paid for it. And it's like, if you're crunching and you're not getting paid for it, then I'm sorry, you really should try to find another job. I'm not saying that this is okay, because look, there's injustices everywhere in the working place, not just in the gaming industry. Would it be great if we could change it for the better? Yes, but ultimately people need to speak up, and they need, face up to their boss and be like, okay, you're not going to pay me what I'm worth. I'm going to leave. It's like make enough money to sustain yourself and then leave, go to another job. You don't quit a job and instantly get into the next one. What you do is you find the job that you want to go to, and then you go with leverage towards your boss and be like, listen, if you don't pay me more, I'm going to go over here. And boom, that's how you solve those things. It's not like slave yourself to death without complaining and then say, oh, I didn't know that I could do other things. No, you gotta fight. Ultimately, that's what you got to do. And I think that a lot of these articles are greatly exaggerated.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're all four of us on this panel right here are in an industry of attention, in that regard, right? Like we make content to be viewed, and it's like that's a whole topic in and of itself, which will, makes sense for another show. But at the core of it, same kind of concept as articles. It's been almost 2 years since the Angry Gamers of YouTube article was posted. These articles are meant to be attention getting, to draw in the conversation, and then it all becomes a part of this greater lexicon of things. Now, that's not to say that there isn't areas that the industry can work to be better. That's not to say that, like, if there's retrospectives being had, like Otter Disappointment follows up saying Supergiant is a great counterexample, while crunch culture isn't absolutely necessary. And I think crunch culture comes in the terms of leadership, right? Nobody wants to sit here and say, hey, you can't take your vacation that you planned because we messed up. Because crunch is in two parts. It's passion being like, hey, we got the energy, we've got the momentum, let's just get it done. And that's the choice of the people as a team making that decision. But then there's also like, oh crap, we didn't plan this out right. We made mistakes. Things will come up in development all the time. I'm working on a project right now that it's been 2 weeks and we're still on this one user story because it's requiring all this extra stuff that at the surface you can't see. But then all of a sudden you start digging into it and you're like, holy crap, like this is a nightmare. So it's like, and that happens as well. So then you have that aspect, and sometimes you got to make a choice in that regards. But there's a big conversation. I do appreciate like that, because there are examples of cultures within gaming that do different things, but it also varies around the style of game and what you're trying to make. When we talk about the issues where crunch culture is negatively depicted in these articles, typically it falls around the gamers not being happy with the end result. Nobody cares about that article about how these people worked hard and got paid for it, and they released a dadgum good game. Like, that is not an article people click on. Johnny, what do you think?
Well, it's funny in a way because, the gaming industry kind of parallels the medical industry. Both have their crunch times. Look at the current pandemic. It's the exact same thing. Nurses are dropping like flies left and right, coming down with COVID-19, and you're left short-staffed. Who's going to take care of the sick? So then it falls on to those who aren't sick to pick up extra shifts. My wife is one of those. A couple of weeks ago, she just worked like 120 hours. God rest her soul. Luckily, she's still alive. But all joking aside,
like,
it's a similar thing. There's a result there. You got to go from A to Z somehow, right? And it comes to a question of you got corporate culture, and then you've got the indie culture. If you look at any type of article that's ever been written about indie studios, indie studios typically have the best employee satisfaction rates. Well, why is that? Well, because those employees typically have a personal stake in the company that they work for versus, say, EA or, BioWare as general consensus, So this mistreatment, it doesn't matter if the employees at CD Projekt Red were treated poorly, because here's the thing. They weren't just hacked. They were infiltrated by an actor. Right. So there was actually an intruder on their premises that broke multiple laws, breaking and entering, trespassing, all this other stuff. And then they stole from the employees. Their livelihood is on the line, not just for their personal information's sake, but for the fact that now, like in particular, Gwent, the source code is out. It's out there. There's a whole team that's designated to Gwent. That's where their payroll is coming from. Their job is to support that game and, continue to update it and support it. So you're not only affecting the game and the company as a whole, but I'm sorry, these employees did not deserve this. If this, whoever this was, did this, said, oh, I'm going to do my part, I'm going to show them. Well, guess what? You just hurt the very people that you were supposedly trying to, help out, I guess. I don't know what their frame of mind was. So, they didn't deserve it. It's disgusting and grotesque. This type of thing in our current culture is just messed up. It really is.
I'm going to transition to our last topic. I'm going to cut the Destiny 2 topic since I'm the only one really active playing it. We can talk. We'll see what happens with Destiny season. But I want to talk about Diablo 2 Resurrection, especially because Blizzard's been brought up, especially in chat numerous times, as a part of our conversation and more. So let's dive into this. Rory, you brought this to me. I think this is interesting. You also got this article. We don't know if this is fact happening, but once you take us through it.
So there's been rumors of a Diablo 2 resurrected not Diablo 2 resurrected, just like a Diablo 2 remaster for a good long while, because ultimately Diablo 2 is still a big fan favorite of pretty much anyone who's played Diablo. There's some people that prefer the first one, but like me personally, I fall on the second one, and a lot of people fall on the second one because Diablo 3 is a very different game from Diablo 2, and Diablo 4 will ultimately also be different. So these are not officially confirmed that there's going to be a Diablo 2, but there seems to be more and more indications. Like initially the rumors were stating that this company, the work of Diablo 2 was being outsourced to this company called Vicarious Visions. And then I believe it was in January, it was announced that Blizzard actually acquired Vicarious Visions and basically merged them into one of their teams. And supposedly they are the ones working on Diablo 2 Resurrected. Now, Vicarious Visions has done a lot of work on a lot of different games, but the most recent stuff that they did is like the Tony Hawk remaster games. And a lot of people have said that those remasters are really good. It seems that the players that liked Tony Hawk, they also enjoy these remasters quite a bit. So, there is quite a lot of credence to this, and we have BlizzCon Online coming up pretty soon, which is what is replacing essentially the BlizzCon celebration thing that they do, where it's basically one big advertisement for all of the Blizzard games, right?
Yeah.
And I think that Diablo 2 could potentially be announced there. Now, the problem with this is, as someone who is a massive fan of the original Diablo 2, is that Blizzard did a terrible job with the remaster of Warcraft 3, which is Warcraft 3 Reforged. And not only they did a bad job with that game, on top of it, while they were doing that, they went ahead and they destroyed the original as well in terms of like multiplayer functionality, and did a whole bunch of stupid stuff with it that basically made it so that people couldn't even do tournaments properly anymore because a bunch of features just got like disabled because they wanted people to play the new one, right? So they just disabled a bunch of features from the old one. So it's like, we are very hesitant when it comes to trusting Blizzard with the ability of remastering this game. And an even more important thing is that the original source code for Diablo 2 is gone. So they would have to do the whole thing from scratch and try to convey the feeling of the original Diablo 2. So there's been a team that I've talked about at length when it comes to remasters. They've been doing remasters for Sony. They did Shadow of the Colossus and Demon Souls. And that team, it's not even remasters. What they do is remakes, essentially. Mm-hmm. That team has kind of like elevated the bar of what a remaster/remake is from like here to like, I wouldn't be able to reach as high as what they've done with their previous work. And so I just don't have a lot of faith, but I'm curious to hear what you guys think about it.
I would love to see Diablo 2 make a return in this regards but I want all the modern features. Like when it comes down to it, like there's always like when you look at historical resurrection, it's like are you trying to preserve what you felt at the time, or are you trying to preserve like the game and its truest as self? Like like, yeah, it's just as hard. It's just as difficult to find somebody to play with. It's just as etc. It's like, no, like I want it to be visually appealing. I want it to be easy to jump into. But yes, like preserve like the systems at play and the exploration and the gameplay. Keep that. That ends up being where I end up falling. But I know not everybody's that way. A good example would be we're getting the Mass Effect Legendary Edition as well. Coming out this year, and it's like they've been showing off a lot of the things that look visual, but then you're also seeing news stories about how like, oh, that was considered humor or something appropriate for the time being, but now in culture today, like it might not be so. So there's always like questions about how do you navigate things that naturally change, especially with how long it's been since D2 was originally released. It's been a long time. Even the fact that
21 years
having played Diablo 4, like I was like yeah, I'm ready for that. Like, give me that shared world. Give me that hop in. Give me if they said D2 always online, I'd be fine with that. Like as a gamer, but not all gamers agree with that. And I'm not going to sit here and say that they're wrong because they're not. Like having an opinion on how a game should be played, like they're, yeah, go for it. But I would love to have that drop in, drop out multiplayer, things that make gaming very nice today. But at the same time, you would my changes would definitely sacrifice the root of what it means to play Diablo 2 in 2021.
Diablo 2 had all the things that you just said, drop in, drop out. I mean, it didn't have like an actual shared world, but you had the BattleNet lobby system, which, would work pretty much flawlessly. It wasn't really like Diablo 2 is actually incredibly ahead of its time when it came to multiplayer.
Its online was great, but just like what I'm saying is that like comparing it to 2021, just being able to like, hey, I'm on, and people just pop on it. Like there's things that exist today that I haven't been spoiled by, and that's where I get frustrated with some games that don't do it. And Anthem and Godfall is one example, having to create some kind of multiplayer lobby as opposed to like just going. And it's like it's such an annoyance, such a small thing, because like 10 years ago wasn't a problem. Nowadays I'm like, this is annoying as hell. But Chaos, you've been quiet for a little bit. What are you thinking, man?
I think when it comes to Diablo 2, all they need to do is give it a facelift, because it's going to need one after 21 years. And it's going to need a quality of life. I think from what I remember playing of Diablo 2, because it's been years now, it had a lot of the things that we expect today, but it's just the quality of life things that we are now dependent on, like maybe auto pickup and things like this, that it can incorporate. I think if they keep true to what they were 21 years ago, but modernize it to the point where it's not changing the core of the game, but just the aesthetic to make it modern, I think it will be accepted a lot more. If they decide to change a lot of it and try to, as they do today, modernize it, and try to add features that no one wants, no one is expecting, no one's asking for, then I can see it not doing as well as they hope. Also, wasn't Vicarious Visions part of Activision?
Yes. I mean, yes, and then they got absorbed into Blizzard.
Well, the Blizzard Activision whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if they were a part of it or if they were just. I think they were working very closely with Activision, but I don't think they were formally a part of it.
They were the ones that built the PC version of Destiny.
Yeah, they were they were helping with Destiny.
That was I'm pretty sure that was an outsourced thing, which is why in January the news came that they actually just like, come here,
you're part of this. The guys, that brings us to the end of our show. Before we kind of wrap up, any final thoughts we want to start with Johnny, guys? If you haven't followed, link for Johnny is in the description. 200 are coming up on 300 subs. Let's see if we can't get him to the 1K.
It's criminal.
So I can tag him. Like, it's selfish of me. I'm just like, I just want to be able to tag like people I have on the show. So guys, be sure to check out the link. Johnny, floor is yours, sir.
No, I just want to thank you guys again for having me on. Pretty incredible opportunity, especially, coming from a small, channel such as myself. And it's incredibly humbling. I've had a great time, and I hope you guys have me back again.
All right, Chaos, where can people find you? What you got working on?
So right now I am working on a few bits, for some Anthem news, some Outriders stuff that I'm still working on. You can find me on YouTube at ChaosPrimeZYT, on Twitter at ChaosPrimeZ, and over at Twitch at Twitch TV/ChaosPrimeZYT. And
Rory, you're up.
You can find me on youtube.com/Rurikon, twitch.tv/Rurikon. Every now and then it's being a little bit rare because kids education and all that. Right now, that's the thing that I'm working on the most is streamlining the online education of my kids and trying to come up with a good environment for them to learn. And then we're probably going to be doing some more Rise news. I have some more topics that I have to do. Going to keep doing Third Fleet podcast, all that jazz. And, I'm going to do the role quests in 14 and probably do a video around that or something.
That'd be really great. And sorry that we weren't able to get to collab this week. I should have a little bit more free time this next week. This last week was just crazy. And then so we're going to talk more Endwalker and more. So guys, be sure to check out the description for all the links to these guys' great content. and more. And go check them out, give them a follow, and hopefully you guys enjoyed Epic Loot Radio episode 13 as a podcast. Seemed to go pretty smoothly, so no negative 13 luck. We'll save that for episode 14. All right, guys. Thank you for all tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. If you did, please be sure to give it a like, share it out, and let people know that we got this podcast going on. And as a bit of news for those still with us, I've been taking the podcast and putting it up in MP3 form. If you guys search, I think, Work to Game, you'll find all the audio podcast there for your enjoyment. But for episode 13, this has been Epic Loot Radio. I've been your host, Brian. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. Hopefully we'll see you in our next one. But until then, I hope you have a fantastic week, and we'll see you in video games. That's the ending. The end.
I heard the train.